Networking is hugely important. As an actor, I was terrified of networking because it felt like it was a performative thing. I had to sell myself or whatever it is as an actor. But as a filmmaker, I've realized, and just as the journey progressed for me, that networking is huge. It's all about the connections with people. And even just from the FilmOffaly Award, a couple of writers have reached out to me since that who've been shortlisted, and they asked for advice. And just on the back of that, I'm now working with them on new projects to direct for them. Like, it's making those little connections that are really invaluable, I think. But it can be really daunting, especially if you're introverted like me. I'm not like hugely relaxed on stages like this when I have to talk about myself. But it can be quiet. You can just show up at events like this. You can listen. You can be open and just be generous with your time and your advice. And I think also to focus on the work, and the relationships kind of follow, you know. And if reach out to people whose work you admire, support them. All those things I think are really important.
I'll remember all of you. This is the other thing, like, you really do, you know who's put in the time and the effort and who's turning up and who's making those connections, and the faces return, and you remember those people, and you know it really makes a difference, even just from out of your own connection, like meeting us and making those connections with us and us remembering you and all of those things. It really, like, the industry is so small that when it comes back to it, that I'm like, oh right, I need an actor, director. I'm like, all right, I'll go back tomorrow. Do you know, like, there's those, like, that happens, those situations, people have recommendations. It's a small industry. And even getting to things is hard, and we all have, like, lives and busy lives and full lives, hopefully. The nice thing is now about, you can network online, like social media is networking, you know, being able to follow people, follow up after, like, have the chats, see people that you like what they're making and where they're going, and is really important, because like it can be difficult to keep coming to these, but the follow-up work is so important. So, you know, literally following people after this, and you know, a few recommendations, that kind of thing can make such a difference, and then be able to come back to those connections again and again. It really helps. But I would say go to a lot of festivals and watch a lot of films. Like, filmmakers don't do that for some reason, which I always find fascinating. They just don't watch other people's films and then or wonder why your script isn't selected. It's because that film was just made by another filmmaker and you're not watching shorts, so you don't know that. And our industry is that small, so what you put into it, you can take away from it, be it in person or online.
No, that's exactly, festivals is one thing that, and like what Maura said as well, I hate networking. I really, with a passion, I hate being here, you know. But I don't know anybody who does really like that kind of, like, going into a room with strangers and having to say, oh, this is me, you know. Guess what? It works, because you'll meet that person again at another event, and it's easier the second time you meet them. But guess what? Festivals put on networking events for a reason. They want people to come to your festival. They want you to meet other filmmakers so that you'll talk about that festival and how great it is. And I met XYZ filmmaker, and they're just like me, and they're struggling to find financing for their short, and they've applied and failed to Galway, to Cork, to wherever for a bursary. So a lot of people are in the same boat for a lot of the time. And every now and again, you'll strike gold and you'll get that bursary, or you'll get a project or a commission. And so will other people, and your career advances and everything works out, you know. So you got to keep trying, you got to keep showing up, but networking at those festivals and knowing, oh yeah, I feel awkward, I don't love it, but, you know, am I going to stay here in bed and kind of, like, you know, flick, or am I going to get out and meet people and network and kind of, like, maybe work with somebody on a script, or begin that project, or shoot the first day of my short film, and then that's it. You've started the ball rolling. So yeah.
I'm going to come at it from a slightly different. I would echo everything that they said as well. Like, it's just so nice to have a friendly face, even if it's just somebody you've met once before at another networking event. But in the industry as a whole, as a crew member, it's hugely important as well, because when you get onto a work placement or you get onto a set and you start to meet people, because it's so small in this industry here as well, you'll suddenly know everyone. You know, once you've done 2 or 3 jobs, you'll meet the people again and again. I remember on my first job on a set, I was like, oh, I've gotten so attached to all these people now, and they were so lovely and they helped me out so much. And, you know, when am I going to, who knows? Like, it feels very lonely when you wrap, but like you work with them all again and again and again. And also to that point, you know, that's why you want to cultivate these relationships as opposed to, you know, making any enemies, because you're going to all see each other. It's so small. You're going to all see each other again and again and again in each job. So when you can strengthen those bonds and you're all cogs working to the same machine, that gets reinforced with every job, and you get shorthand with each other, you know, interdepartmental as well, to kind of become like a crew family. And it really is like that, because when you are working in your flat to the mat, you don't see a lot of your actual, well, until we get job sharing up and running, you don't see a lot of your people in outside of work. You know, these people, you're with them for 10, 12 hours a day, so you need to forge those relationships and those bonds, and then it's actually quite a comfort when you see somebody you know on the next job and the next job and the next job. So I've heard that there's a 5-second thing where if you don't want to walk towards somebody, your brain will shut you down in 5 seconds. So if you just start walking on second 1 or 2 to go and say hi, then, you know, you're doing it before you know, before your brain tells you not to leave the cave.
I hate networking with a passion, which is ironic because I facilitate networking. And I think I was saying to Eve earlier, I'm kind of doing this for the inner part of myself that hates networking. I'm supporting that person. But it is really important to know that everybody hates it, with possibly a few exceptions. But just to say, maybe give yourself a networking objective. I know it's early on a Saturday, but just that you leave with one connection that could potentially lead somewhere by the end of the day.